People who know use Valvoline.
Hello and welcome to Eurosport for the penultimate round of the PPG IndyCar World Series. Ben Edwards here to introduce the Bosch Sparkplug Grand Prix, a race which sees the battle for the championship between two Formula One world champions reaching a truly critical stage. Nigel Mansell leading the championship by 14 points over Emerson Fittipaldi, and both of them to start on the front row of the grid for this 200-lap event. It's the last one-mile oval track of the year, the last oval track race of the 1993 season. And the crowds here at Nazareth once again proving to be a record number attending this race. It's a track owned by Roger Penske, but it's in the hometown of the Andretti family. Mario and Michael both coming from Nazareth, so Mario certainly will be heading for a great result if he can. Try and repeat the performance from the earlier one-mile oval victory that he had way back earlier in the year at Phoenix. A great win for him on that occasion, and if he could repeat that sort of performance in his hometown, I'm sure he'd be truly delighted. But it's Mansell who is on the pole position. We had pretty poor weather conditions yesterday. We can see at the moment it's still fairly windy, but rain yesterday meant that no qualifying could take place. The cars cannot run on wet conditions on the oval circuits, so there was no actual qualifying yesterday. They all got a day off, and the grid has been formed, or will be formed, in points order. Therefore, the leader of the championship, Nigel Mansell, will take the pole position. He doesn't get the extra point, however, for getting pole position. So that's 1 point that everyone's going to miss out on. And alongside him, it does mean, of course, that he's got his main rival for the championship, the man who won last weekend at Mid-Ohio, Emerson Fittipaldi. So we've got a great battle in store with the two main title protagonists on the front row of the grid. Well, they did manage to get some running in this morning. They were given 2 half-an-hour warm-up sessions this morning, and that was on a dry track, thankfully, of course, and they managed to set some times. Interestingly enough, it was Raul Boesel who set the fastest time this morning. He will line up third on the grid, due to being third in the championship, and he has performed superbly well on all of the one-mile ovals this year. He had the pole position at Milwaukee. He finished second at Milwaukee, in fact, to Nigel Mansell. Mansell winning his first ever oval track victory there at Milwaukee. And Boesel also finished second at Phoenix. He didn't go quite so well in the race at New Hampshire, which was the more recent one-mile oval that we had. Again, another victory for Nigel Mansell on that occasion. But Boesel setting the pace, certainly in this morning's session. He did a time of 19.749, an average speed around this circuit of 182.288 miles an hour. Quite some speed, and it is a very demanding track. Mansell reported earlier in the year when he was testing here back in August that it actually made him feel dizzy, and Emerson Fittipaldi certainly could agree with that. When he was talking about it in the press conference, he could truly understand how Mansell felt. The track is very, very demanding. It consists of 3 major corners. There's a flat-out kink after the start-finish line. They go down into turn 2, which is a very, very quick corner. They then go along the back straight and then into turn 3. It drops downhill quite steeply into turn 3, but turn 3 is much sharper. They're actually braking quite firmly for turn 3 and then coming back out onto the start-finish straight. So 3 very different types of corner, although it's all contained within this one-mile oval. So a very, very demanding track indeed, and it really will be fascinating to see who has the best setup and who is going to come through to victory. Another key point is fuel consumption here at Nazareth, and in recent years that has certainly played a major part in the race strategy. 2 stops we would normally expect, a third of the way through the race and 2/3 of the way through the race, but if there are not many yellow flags, if they're running flat out for much of the race, then it's very likely we'll see them having to come in for a 3rd stop to take on enough fuel to get to the end. And certainly in recent years, that has made a big difference. In 1991, Arie Luyendyk took the victory here by managing to get through on just 2 pit stops. He leaned off the fuel mixture. That meant he used less fuel. He was careful to run in behind other cars to try and get the slipstream effect. and in the end he managed to get through on just 2 stops. There we see, in fact, Harry Leyendijk's car on the grid. So Leyendijk, a former winner here. Last year, Bobby Rahal, assessing the fact that Leyendijk had done that the year before, also managed to get through on 2 stops, and he took the win, which was a vital win on that occasion, from Michael Andretti. Andretti did come in for a 3rd splash and dash stop, which at the end of the day they decided they may not have needed, and he lost the win here at Nazareth, which was a vital one because, of course, Rahal went on to take the overall championship at the final round. And there is Michael Andretti as we speak of him, the man who announced this week that he was leaving Formula One and that he would be rejoining the IndyCar circus next year with this team, with Chip Ganassi's team, the team that have been running Harry Leyendijk so far this year. Michael Andretti will be joining that team for the 1994 season, and he'll be driving a Reynard, the Reynard concern based in Bicester, who up to now have been built winning Formula 3 and Formula 3000 cars. Well, now they're going to start building Indy cars, and it's Michael Andretti who's been given the task of getting on the pace as quickly as possible with the Chip Ganassi run car. There's going to be 6 Reynards out there, but surely Michael Andretti's car will be the one that they'll be concentrating on, and that really is big news for this weekend. Michael Andretti holding a press conference along with Ron Dennis and Chip Ganassi over the weekend and explaining the situation. The fact that the drive at McLaren was not a definite. Ron Dennis was trying to sort out his drivers. He had the offer, Andretti, from Chip Ganassi to race the Reynard, and he decided that rather than miss on that opportunity, that he would come back to IndyCar racing and race the Reynard for them next year. Ron Dennis saying that he's still keen to run Michael Andretti in the future, and that it doesn't mean that this is the end of Michael Andretti's Formula One career. And in fact, Ron Dennis saying that Michael Andretti owes him 3 races in effect, because he's missing 3 races this season, and Dennis is keen to try and get him in the car over the next couple of years perhaps. So it's quite possible that we'll see Michael Andretti back out in Formula One, but he will be concentrating on Indy cars in 1994. So he will rejoin the series. The other interesting news this week, Nigel Mansell confirmed to stay at Newman Haas. So we're going to see a great battle in prospect perhaps between Nigel Mansell in the Lola at Newman Haas and Michael Andretti making a return to IndyCar racing and racing the Reynard for Chip Ganassi. Mansell's deal expected to bring him in £3.5 million per year over the next 2 years. It's a definite 2-year deal with an option to extend that. So Mansell there, the man sitting on pole position, is delighted to be staying with the Newman Haas team. So Emerson Fittipaldi then lines up alongside him, a track that he's won 3 times in the last 5 years. Raoul Boesel on the inside of row 2. Alongside him is the young Canadian Paul Tracy, the man who led last week and crashed out. Then Bobby Rahal, last year's winner here at Nazareth. Alongside him is Mario Andretti, the local man, and he'll be in determined mood to try and prove that he's still got what it takes to win on this particular track. Alonso Jr. is next up on row 4, and alongside him is Dutchman Harry Leyendijk. Leyendijk putting in a stronger performance than Mid-Ohio, finishing 5th. Robbie Gordon, his best result of the year last week by finishing 2nd, and alongside him is the young Canadian 33-year-old Scott Goodyear in the Mackenzie Special. Teo Fabi lines up on the inside of row 6 in the Hall VDS car. Alongside him, race winner from Detroit, Danny Sullivan. The points way of lining these cars up obviously affecting some of them. Scott Brayton on the inside of row 7, another man who's usually quite strong on the oval tracks, and Stefan Johansson way down there on the outside of row 7, 14th place on the grid because of all the DNFs that he's had this year. Unfortunately not finishing many of the races, not scoring well in the points, so he's further down the grid than we may have expected. Just to quickly run through the rest of the grid for you, Eddie Cheever is back out in the Budweiser Lola again. He suffered quite a lot of understeer in the practice session this morning. Willie T. Ribbs lines up alongside him. Robbie Buell and Brian Till line up together on the 9th row of the grid, and then we see Mark Smith and Hiro Matsushita. Mark Smith, another one suffering from the fact that he's had a lot of failures this year in terms of mechanical reliability. He's rarely qualified this far down. In fact, I think this is probably his lowest qualifying grid position this year, purely because it's been done on championship positions. On the 11th row of the grid, we've got Dave Coudrave and Olivier Grouillard, the Frenchman, who of course came into the series quite a lot later. He started just after the Indy 500 and hasn't scored that many points, so he's down on the 11th row. Marco Greco and Ross Bentley on the 12th row of the grid. Greco hitting the wall on the infield this morning in the warm-up session that they had earlier on. 25th on the grid, Maurizio Gugelmin, making his second race in the IndyCar, and of course it'll be his very, very first race on an oval track. The Brazilian ex-Formula 1 driver making his debut on an oval circuit, and it'll be very interesting to see how he gets on. He went quite well this morning. He was 11th fastest in overall times, but that does include a couple of the drivers going out in their spare cars. So in fact his time good enough to get him in the top 10 of times this morning, and I think that's an impressive effort from the 30-year-old who formerly raced for Leighton House March and last year was racing for Jordan Yamaha. Well, the final man on the grid is Buddy Lazier, and he lines up in 26th place. So that is the grid. Mansell on that pole position, confirmed for another 2 years of IndyCar racing. And another announcement which was made this week, interestingly enough, particularly for British fans, the fact that Nigel Mansell will be racing a touring car at Donington at the end of October. A deal was done that Nigel Mansell will be racing in the Ford Mondeo at Donington Park on October the 31st. It'll be his first experience of touring car racing and the only opportunity for British fans to see Mansell racing in Britain this year. So that should be a fascinating encounter. But this is the serious business here today, because Mansell knows he has the opportunity here today to take the 1993 PPG IndyCar World Series. It would be a historic victory. It would be the first time that the reigning world champion from Formula 1 comes in to win the IndyCar Series. It would be the first British win in the IndyCar Series. British input in IndyCar racing is very strong. All the cars on the grid are built, designed in Britain. All the Lolas, the Penske's are built in Britain, but a British driver has never won the series. There we have the analysis of the race. 200 laps of the 1 mile circuit and a demanding track. The main difficulty with this track is dealing with the traffic. Paul Tracy saying in the press conference that to set the car up for the track is not so difficult, but to deal with the traffic on the tight confines of this circuit can be very, very difficult indeed. And most of the drivers, Scott Goodyear included, saying that this is the toughest 1 mile oval on which to pass. So that really is going to be the challenge for all of the drivers. Mansell's going to have the problem even if he gets out in front, because he's going to be lapping the slower cars and he's going to have to deal with the other traffic. So a great battle in store between Nigel Mansell and Emerson Fittipaldi. Mansell needs 9 points more to wrap up the championship. Let's join our American commentary team.
Was the fastest in the morning practice, apparently a very light fuel load, but he did break the track record here with some superlative laps. Also, Mansell was incredibly good in the laps that he laid down.
And of course, we have here one of the most unusual racetracks. Unusual because it's the only oval we have with elevation changes. The key to success here, well, it's your ability to handle traffic. You have to think almost a full corner ahead. Top speeds over 180 miles an hour, with the slowest speed being through turn 2 at 140 miles an hour. One of the fascinating things about this racetrack is things seem to happen at twice normal speed.
And can be blind in some places traveling at those speeds, especially down in the first turn. As you're turning in, if something happens in front of you, you have very little opportunity to react. Looking over the right shoulder of Danny Sullivan now as he works his way around the track. The PPG safety cars pull off, and it is now with Johnny Rutherford in the pace car. 1 more lap to go.
1 more lap to get the tires up to temperature. Look at Emerson on the outside of Mansell, accelerates. What that does, it actually brings the turbocharger up to speed, pressurizes the whole induction system, so as he has 45 inches of boost as soon as he sees that green flag.
Now, if you're keeping a close count on the points, because they are lined up in the position of the points coming to this race, no point was awarded for the pole position. So it remains exactly the same as they left at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Interestingly enough, too, lining them up in the points, Derek, really pretty much reflected what we thought might be the qualifying lineup.
Well, exactly. I mean, some people do lose out, some people gain. But I mean, overall, it probably was a reasonably fair way to do it. Here's one of these elevation changes. They come from the top of the hill on a downhill run to everybody's favorite braking area into turn 3. That's where we will see lots of action today.
Lights are off on the pace car as they're on the backstretch, which is also the exit and entrance to the pits. The field comes into alignment now. These races can be whirlwinds here at Nazareth. They are magnificent and they are fast, but they also can spell disaster very quickly, as Derek already suggested. Now the pace picks up as Nigel Mansell brings them down. The yellow flag comes out. They say no start. The field will go around again.
Didn't like
Fittipaldi lagged back a bit.
Exactly. Didn't like the formation. The starter has control. Mansell was 2 car lengths ahead of Fittipaldi. So he said, we only have a short lap. Let's do it all over again.
They come back into alignment once again. Again, it's very important to keep both temperature in the tires and keep them scrubbed clean. Though this is a wonderfully clean surface that Roger Penske has laid out here. Danny Sullivan was involved in the initial investment of this track as well. They very wisely had a local paving contractor as one of the people involved in the track when they moved it over from what used to be a dirt track to the asphalt oval and tri-oval that it is now. That warm-up lane on the inside, by the way, is an idea of Rick Mears, and a very good one. You notice it was copied at the Indianapolis Speedway this year. Now here we go. And the green comes out this time. As Nigel Mansell drops back a bit, Tracy comes sweeping around, and the Penske cars lead this race going into the first corner. Now moving to the backstretch. Mansell sits back in third.
Tracy was the one that got a superb jump to go outside Nigel Mansell, but look at this.
Mansell looking for any room he can on Tracy, and he's fighting with him. That's a bit of a surprise. When I saw him drop back early, certainly no direct intent of Mansell, I thought, well, maybe he's just going to play it cozy here on the first lap. But then he comes up to challenge Tracy, and now Bosell comes up to challenge Mansell.
Things happen so fast here at Nazareth. Lap after lap goes by in just about 20 seconds, but the Penske cars, as we've seen earlier this year, now commanding even at this early stage. But Bosell is giving Mansell all the trouble he needs.
Fight is here for third as Bosell comes up, darts to the inside. Here's the braking area that Derek mentioned, and Bosell moves into third place as Mansell drops backwards. Still in a good position to maintain the championship. This will have to be for Mansell a very tactical battle here today. The front of the field, it's Fittipaldi. Tracy runs in second. They are not challenged.
Bosell looks good. You mentioned it earlier. Broke the track record this morning in this car. Did a 19.7, which was the fastest car ever around here. We do expect him to mount a good challenge to Fittipaldi and Tracy. But Mansell is lagging behind. He had trouble this morning in the practice session with a water leak in that primary car.
Of course, speaking of Raul Boesel, the practice is unofficial, so even though he broke the record, he won't go into the record book as having broken this track record here. Second place, Paul Tracy. Remember, he had that disaster at Mid-Ohio 2 weeks ago, leading the race once again this year, and then suddenly off course and into the barrier. Now, Derek, at the start, we were talking a little bit about team orders and how they might figure in. Already they're coming up onto slower cars and begin to overhaul traffic. But what are we talking about on team orders?
Well, team orders will be he will help Fittipaldi by dropping back behind him if necessary. Team orders doesn't mean he will become a blocker against Mansell, but he will pave the way, if he can, for Fittipaldi to take away maximum points from this race.
Already encountering slower traffic, the two Marlboro cars, and they begin a challenge on one another as Paul Tracy looks to the outside. Let's get an audio update from Jan Beekes.
Paul, when you're talking about the speed of Raul Boesel, he is the most confident he has been all season. He says, I love the handling of this car. He says, boy, why couldn't we have had qualifying? I would have loved to have been on the pole. He also said, my car can go either way. I have my sway bars in the car right in the middle. If I get pushed or I get loose, I can make this car do whatever I want.
You know, the amazing thing with Boesel is we watch Mansell work his way through traffic, with Grugelmeet just ahead of him. This morning, it was still very humid. And out of the back of Boesel's car, the contrails that you normally see in humid air at the rear of the wings were actually coming out from the underside of his car, which gives you an idea of the aerodynamics on the bottom.
Exactly. Such was the downforce created by Boesel's car. Look at Tracy. Tracy around the outside of Emerson.
Paul Tracy makes his move to the outside, tries to use traffic, but it may not work for him this time. That's Mashusta just ahead. It does work for Tracy. He sweeps well around Fittipaldi, and he picks up the lead of the race. But at the same time, moving in is Bozell as he closes in on Fittipaldi.
Well, he obviously thinks he can be more help to Emerson by getting clear of this traffic at the moment. An interesting move by Tracy.
So the lead changes as Fittipaldi gives way to Paul Tracy. And now Fittipaldi has Raul Boisel just behind him and ready to challenge. So the lead changes here in the early going with 11 laps complete.
Tremendous action in the first 11 laps, and Guy Hobbs, that start was something else.
Look how fast and furious they're clicking off these laps too as the race continues. And here's what we talked about at the top of the show, traffic. And Paul Tracy was able to use the traffic to get by teammate Emerson Fittipaldi. And remember Phoenix, where Paul Tracy just ran off into the sunset and had a 2-lap lead on the rest of the field before it all went wrong for him.
I'm sure we'll have a chance to look at that replay, but on that start, Tracy shaved Nigel Mansell on the side. He was so close, and Nigel seemed to back off for a moment. Then Tracy seemed to be providing some coverage for Memo. Then he decided to go ahead and take that position.
Obviously his car is a lot quicker than Emo's right now, and he didn't want to hang around, and he made the move, got by him, and he's going to be running his own race for a while. No point in him just waiting for Emo early on in the race yet. We've got 2 rounds of pit stops, and the order could certainly change a lot. Pit stops are going to be very important today, as we've seen them at other races, and the Alonso Junior team seems to be the best at pit stops as far as coming in a low position and going out in a high position.
Now there's Nigel Mansell weaving through traffic. He's now pursuing very, very quickly right behind Raul Boisel and approaching Emerson Fittipaldi. Now the thought also might be to have Tracy get that 1 point for most laps led, take that point away from Mansell, and also stay a position ahead of Mansell to also bump it back and perhaps put him in a deficit of 1 or perhaps even 2 points.
Well, we've got a long way to go yet, and of course there are many points to be awarded. 20 for the victory, and that's what Emerson Fittipaldi is going for. Let's rejoin Paul Page and Derek Daly.
Paul Tracy continues his lead in the Bosch Spark Plug Grand Prix. Fittipaldi is second. The battle is here at third place with Nigel Mansell sitting just behind Raul Boisel. In that exchange between Fittipaldi and Tracy, Fittipaldi lost 4 points, something he can't afford to do, and brings us back to the whole team orders issue. As Nigel Mansell tries to move to the outside of Boisel, almost gets pinched to the wall. They split a slower car just in front of them. Whoa!
We said it earlier, trying to anticipate traffic and using it to your advantage can play a major role here at Nazareth in the outcome of this race.
But of course, to anticipate it, you have to see it. And at the velocity differences here, sometimes you're on top of the car before you actually realize it's there. And look at Mansell as he ducks to the inside, gets cut off once again. Now he has to handle up a pass on Robbie Buell. He does, and he continues. Now his pursuit of Boisel will stay on board with Mansell.
This is turn 1. It should be flat. Yes, it is. This is uphill. Oh, look the way he reels in Boisel.
Jan Beekes, you have an update.
Well, when you watch these cars and you watch them diving through traffic, keep in mind that when they come right up behind another car, it takes the air away from the front wings. Most of these teams have put more front wing into the car for the race setup, but they cannot come right up on the gearbox. They have to hang a front wing out so they have downforce to keep the car so it will turn into the corners.
Continuing battle for third as we look back to the lead of the race. Fittipaldi and Paul Tracy. Paul Tracy is the leader. And they both, of course, encountering traffic as well. Well, you get an idea here of the speed and how busy it can be. As look at them work their way around Stefan Johansson.
And they are both 93 Penske's here, but Johansson obviously does not enjoy the same type of comfortable setup that Tracy does. But look at the traffic jam here as they go uphill over the top at turn 2 and then the downhill run to the braking zone.
And of course, if you are the fast car in overtaking, well, you can be surprised by a sudden move. By the same token, if you're a slower car, the leaders can come up on you very quickly, and that's one of the things the leaders have to look for, is to feel like there's an awareness in front of them. Moving back to Nigel Mansell in his battle with Raoul Boisel. This is the fight for third. Arie Luyendyk, by the way, runs in fifth right now. Ray Hall is sixth. Seventh is Scott Goodyear. In eighth is Robbie Gordon, followed by Eddie Cheever and Mario Andretti.
One of Mansell's strongest points, and we saw it on oval track races earlier this year. He is superb in traffic.
Whoa.
Look at this. Max Schuster gets a shake of the fist from Mansell. Mansell was going to go outside, realized he couldn't do it, inside couldn't do it, shake of the fist, and away he goes.
Max Schuster here in the early laps has been running right down the middle of the track. That kind of move has occurred more than once. Now it's occurred with Mansell, and Mansell was not at all happy with it. By the way, Raoul Boisel is the fastest car on the race course thus far. He is turning laps on a full fuel load in the 20s at 20.9.
Boisel is still embroiled in traffic here, and Mansell seems to be able to take the chances just a little bit more than Boisel and is able to keep up with him. Danny Sullivan, we see beside him, running very slowly, or just behind them.
So as the field strings out now with 26 laps already complete, 26 miles of the 200-mile scheduled distance, we have been green flag all the way. We started with Fittipaldi jumping to the lead, and look at Mansell. Mansell and Boisel coming to battle once again. And again, Mansell is able to hold the position. But Boisel is very definitely there and very eager. Remember that Boisel sits third in the points right now and wants to protect that position as well. Paul Tracy is still our leader here in Nazareth.
Sport Live.
Welcome back on Eurosport. This amazing Nazareth 1 mile oval is really setting up a tremendous race at the moment. It's Paul Tracy who leads from Emerson Fittipaldi in second place. Both of them were able to get past Nigel Mansell at the start. Mansell obviously taking things a little bit steady. He knows that he's got to be there at the end of the race and to try and score points. Now we're watching a great battle here for third between Arie Luyendyk and Scott Goodyear. Both of them have managed to get past Raoul Boisel. So Arie Luyendyk now up into third place, fourth place rather, behind Nigel Mansell. Goodyear in fifth place. Goodyear really putting the pressure onto Arie Luyendyk. So Boisel now has dropped right down into sixth place, and the man who was going so well now seems to be dropping off the pace a little bit, and it's Arie Luyendyk and Scott Goodyear who we now have to watch as men coming up through the field. There's Robbie Gordon now putting Raoul Boisel under pressure as well. Out in the front, Paul Tracy seems to be very comfortable at the moment still. He's looking very comfortable. They've completed 37 laps now out of the 200. The laps going so quickly, just lapping slightly over 20 seconds per lap. And Tracy looking once again dominant as he has on several occasions. But the question is, will he still be there when the checkered flag flies at the end of all the laps? Gordon then still putting the pressure on Boisel for that position. Boisel dropping away very slightly, but certainly it's Paul Tracy and Emerson Fittipaldi in the Penske's that are setting the pace. Long way to go yet. Can Nigel Mansell score the points that he needs? Let's rejoin the American team.
Between the concrete walls here.
And is part of that the fact that they had so little practice time this morning? They didn't really know where they could get the car set up so that it would dial back toward loose?
That's the problem. You can't run this number of laps during practice consecutively. They now have 38 laps run consecutively. That's the problem.
Moving up to the battle for second place now as Mansell comes up and begins to challenge with Fittipaldi. Battle for the track, battle for the championship. Paul Tracy is just a few hundred yards ahead. There's Fittipaldi. You can see the rear wing of his car. Look at Mansell. He weaves left. He leads right. There's Ray Hall sitting just in front of them.
Oh, this is a great fight. I'm sure Emerson would love to have Tracy back there to help him to block, to be a bit of a blocker on Mansell. Not necessarily to block him trying to make a pass, but I'll tell you what, support from your teammate in this situation when you're under attack is welcome.
And once they got around Ray Hall, did you see how fast they pulled away? Now they swing, fighting traffic again as Fittipaldi moves up to the outside of Johansson, and Mansell loses ground.
Bad run in traffic there for Mansell. He was all over Emerson, and suddenly within one lap, we said it earlier, it happened so fast here, suddenly he loses almost 2 seconds.
Continuing under green flag racing, 41 laps complete. Tracy still the leader. Fittipaldi was the early leader. He now runs in second. And Mansell has broken off contact for the moment. So it's static at the front of the field as the battle of the championship continues.
And so the race within the race continues. Fittipaldi and Mansell now 1-on-1, mano a mano at this point with only 8 cars on the lead lap, and the whirlwind continues.
Very much so, and they're already beginning to lap, like I say, all the field. Only, I believe, 8 still on the main lap. We've had some guys pit. Scott Brayton has pitted, Danny Sullivan has pitted, and as you also heard, Mauricio Guzman has pitted to make some adjustments to the car. Eddie Cheever, of course, in the King Motorsports car, which is very good on the ovals. We know that with Roberto Guerrero in it. It wasn't doing so well on the street and road courses. He's got a very good car. He is now running in 8th place. Stefan Johansson has managed to get his way up to 9th, and there's a great battle going on for 2nd place between Emerson Fittipaldi and Nigel Mansell. You saw earlier Nigel lost quite a bit of ground in the traffic on that last maneuver. He gambled, he went left, and now he went right, and now it looks like he's going to be able to put the move on Emerson as they go into the turn 2.
Indeed, not only that, they're both coming up on Paul Tracy, so both Marlboro Penske cars are slowing down, relatively speaking, to Nigel Mansell, who's charging for the lead, and this is very bad news for the Penske team.
It's going to be a case of which guy is going to get the best fuel economy too, as far as the Lola is concerned, the Ford is concerned, and the Chevrolet V8 is concerned, and that's where a lot of this race could be either won or lost right on pit lane.
And remember, Guy, in Mid-Ohio last week, trying to make up ground, Mansell went so quickly he had to stop at the last minute to get some more fuel. Let's rejoin Paul Page and Derek Daly with this battle going on between Mansell and Fittipaldi.
At the Bosch Spark Plug Grand Prix, Nigel Mansell was able to mount a challenge on Emerson Fittipaldi and get around into 2nd. Now he is beginning to challenge Paul Tracy. So here is a fight for the lead, and look at him dial inside of Tracy. The crowd comes to their feet and begins to cheer as Mansell comes into the lead.
What a move by Mansell. He is so decisive. Now he's outside of Mario Andretti, his teammate.
Mario. He just completely blows an identical car right into the weeds.
Mario obviously is not happy with that car. We hear it is loose. That is the driver's nightmare here. He is loose. But Mansell's car is exceptional at this stage of the race. He did set fastest lap of the race at a 20.8. But the 2 Penske cars are in trouble after 48 laps.
Brian Till has come into the pits because he's been complaining his car is loose. Mario Andretti just headed down pit road as well. I guess that pass by Mansell convinced him. But every time Mansell makes a pass down the front straightaway, all of the crowd just comes to their feet and begins to cheer. Let's go back and take a look at what put him in this position. Here was Mansell challenging Fittipaldi.
Tries to go outside, gets a great run. Now look, from in-car down the inside under braking, and Fittipaldi has nothing to do except allow him to go by. Within 2 laps, he attacked Paul Tracy, which you see right here. Same favorite position down the inside under braking. Wasn't able to pull it off, but boy, did he get a run. Watch this here. Now watch the weaving. Look, look, look. Weaves trying to make sure he lines the car up for turn 1. Decisive moves, passing both Penskes within the space of 2 laps.
And with Mansell doing that and now looking back from his car to the rest of the field, Mansell gains 4 points and now leads by 18 points over Emerson Fittipaldi. Paul Tracy has been in and out of the pits, Gary Gerald.
Indeed, and it's the same problem, Paul. The car suddenly turned loose, and they couldn't afford to wait to get to the normal pit window. They came in, they made a wing change, trying to get better handling characteristics. Mario Andretti also came in, and they did change the wicker bill, trying to help his handling woes in the early stages.
The reason they come in early, they lose less time by making a pit stop and an adjustment than staying out on the racetrack hoping that you can drive around the problem. That never happens here at Nazareth.
Goodyear challenges Fittipaldi and takes over 2nd place as they work through traffic. So perhaps what's wrong with Paul Tracy's car is also wrong with Fittipaldi's car. So Scott Goodyear slides into 2nd place, still led by Mansell. 3rd place Fittipaldi, Lyondike 4th, then Robbie Gordon. Raul Boisel has fallen back to 6th now. In 7th is Eddie Cheever. Stefan Johansson is 8th. Jan Vikas, you have something further.
Paul, you keep talking about what's wrong with the cars. Keep in mind that these cars were nice and balanced when the race started, but the track itself has gone to loose. All we can do from that is we can say that Nigel Mansell must have started this race with a car that was pushing. When the track went loose, now his car is perfect. That's why he dropped back in the beginning. Now he's flying. So those that didn't start with a push are now in big trouble.
Also keeping an eye on the 14 car, the Copenhagen car of Robbie Gordon. He started in 9th place, now sitting up in 5th place and ready to challenge Arie Luyendyk.
We saw Johansson get passed very easily by the factory Penske's earlier, and now look, he is actually faster than Emerson and looking for a way past.
Bosell now moving in position with Eddie Cheever moving around him. Look at Cheever there, the replacement driver for the remainder of the season for Roberto Guerrero, and he just went around him like he was standing still.
It gives you an idea how perfectly set up these racing cars have to be to get the optimum performance. If they're off either side, you don't just slow down a little bit, you slow down dramatically. That's what we're seeing here. And of course, with no practice, it's exaggerated this problem.
You know, one thing that can happen here, though, is look at Goodyear. Sweeps back and forth all over the place. You want to question whether that car's handling okay?
Whoa, for a driver to do that, he must have confidence in his car to so violently turn it left and right. So Goodyear obviously feels good.
So the question I think we have to constantly run through our minds, though, as we've seen some key figures in this race stop a little bit early. They're making adjustments, but while they're making adjustments, they're also taking fuel. So some cars are going to be out of the order coming to the finish of the race. That can make a world of difference here at Nazareth.
And one such
Sport Live.
You rejoin us on Mansell's car as he struggles to find a way through the traffic. He really is having a bit of a torrid time. He's out in front of this race. An incredible reversal of fortune so far. Mansell, who was taken at the start by the two Penske's, Paul Tracy and Emerson Fittipaldi. The cars of the Brazilian and the Canadian there, Emerson Fittipaldi now down to 4th place, with Arie Luyendyk having moved up to 3rd place ahead of him. The Penske's definitely going off the pace a little bit. Tracy's been in the pits to have a wing change already, and Fittipaldi is struggling on in 4th position. Mansell leads it then with Scott Goodyear in 2nd place, Arie Luyendyk up into 3rd, Fittipaldi still in 4th, Robbie Gordon in 5th, and Raul Boesel hanging on in 6th. But Boesel, another one whose car seems to have gone off in recent laps, and he's struggling for pace just a little bit, coming up to complete 68 laps now out of the 200. And this really is hard work for Mansell to try and get past the traffic, putting the pressure on. He's got to put in a good performance here. He needs it. He wants to wrap up the championship, but he's very aware that anybody could take him out all too easily before the end of the race. So Mansell still leads it. Let's rejoin our American commentary team.
One more position further backwards, then Nigel Mansell can go away from here with the championship. Scott Goodyear makes his first stop from 2nd place, Jan.
Scott Goodyear stops it on the marks. They have no radio communication. Let's watch it closely to see if he makes any hand gestures to the crew. Obviously, everyone else here has gone loose. He hasn't made any gestures. They've made no changes to the car. He's down and he's away.
The McKenzie car goes back into the fight. The first of the leaders to make his stop. Mansell leads this race. Arie Luyendyk picked up 2nd place with the stop by Goodyear, then Fittipaldi, then Gordon, then Johansson. And here comes Fittipaldi as he rolls, keeping very conscious of the speed limit, into the Penske pits, down at the far end, very close to the exit of the pits. In fact, he pulls out of here and makes a left, and he is on the pit lane immediately.
And when they finish changing the tires, there's the adjustment. This is the front wing. They elect to go front rather than rear. Probably takes some downforce out of that car, hoping to give him the necessary balance.
So in 13.6 seconds, Fittipaldi makes his stop, rolls back into the action, but the time spent in the pits, he fell well behind. Of course, everyone will have the same penalty, but the penalty is controlled by the skill of the pit crew. Nigel Mansell is now on the pit road, the leader of the race, as he rolls down, again all the way through the pits, and very close to the exit before he will come to a stop at Newman Haas Racing, Gary Gerald. He comes in, starts his stop. Gary?
Yes, indeed. 3 pits from the exit. They're not expecting any changes. Nigel questioned on the radio, we're told, whether or not they might make a wing adjustment. They have not. And boy, does he smoke the tires getting out of here.
So Mansell comes back into the fight.
When you make no changes on that pit stop, it means you are in good shape here, particularly when everybody around you seems to have trouble Mansell and his engineering staff, led by Peter Gibbons, have come up with a very good setup for Mansell to try and clinch this championship with.
Kmart Havlin Rolola back into the fight. Nigel Mansell was the leader as he came in. Let's get an update on Ari Lyondike's stop. Jan Beekes?
Paul, when Ari Lyondike came in, they made a very quick stop at the Chip Ganassi crew, but the fuel probe stuck when they took it off. They pulled it back over the wall and was spraying fuel on the other side. A very scary moment, and then it snapped shut. They haven't lost too much fuel out of the tank. It's not a fire hazard, but a scary moment for Ganassi Racing.
Remember, it's methanol fuel here on the Indy car. It's not gasoline, but still, they can flash into flame, and when it does so, the flame is all but invisible. Remember Herm Johnson's fire in the inaugural Michigan 500. Mansell back, threading his way through traffic.
His ability to slice through traffic is enormous compared to most other drivers here. That is a big advantage that Mansell takes into this cockpit every time he gets in on an oval.
And of all the key stops now complete, Nigel Mansell remains the leader with Scott Goodyear in second, Stefan Johansson up to third.
We need to make a very quick correction before that last set of pit stops. Had the race ended at that point, Nigel Mansell would be the PPG IndyCar World Series champion. All he needs to do is end up with 22 points. In case of a tie, he would win because he has more victories than Emerson Fittipaldi. So Nigel Mansell right now is very much in control of his own destiny. And as you saw in that pit stop, Guy Hoff, I didn't see any adjustments made to that front wing.
No, the only adjustment made was at the Penske pit, which is just 2 down from where Nigel made his pit stop. One of the Penske crewmen was waving like mad at an official, saying that Nigel Mansell hit the cone that was out in front of their pit, which, if that was ruled the case of happening, then Nigel Mansell will get a stop-and-go penalty. And of course, I think they're just kind of like searching there for any help they can possibly get, because I don't believe he did hit it, but they were sort of trying to make a fuss and doing anything he can to slow down Nigel Mansell.
And there you see Jim Sunto wave at Mario Andretti. That's Mansell's teammate, to let him go through, and he does. So he gets lapped one more time by Nigel Mansell. Another interesting set of stops was, of course, the last of the Penske stops, as Emerson Fittipaldi had 2 complete wing turns of the wing adjustment on the right front wheel. Unbelievable.
Trying to get some more downforce on the front end of the car so they can keep going. Here's Raul Boesel making his pit stop. He's been able to go a lot longer than the other guys because he's been running quite a bit slower. And there's going to be some adjustments probably made on his car during this pit stop.
Now let's go join our colleagues, Paul Page and Derek Daly.
Back at the Bosch Sparkplug Grand Prix, Raul Boesel is heading out of the pits after his stop. Mansell is the leader. The second place car is Scott Goodyear. Ari Lyondike is third. Johansson was able to hold off 76 laps before he made his stop in the pits, and that of course dropped him out of third place and well back in the order. We have been under green flag running since the start of the day here. A remarkable run and very, very fast. The fastest of the cars is Nigel Mansell. In second place is Goodyear, who has been quick, but he can't keep up with Mansell. Al Unser Jr. is in the pits. Obviously, because the cowling is off, there's something seriously wrong there.
And when they disconnect the driver's helmet, you know his day is over. Lots of talk about what he will do next year. He told me he, in fact, has not signed anything yet, although there is a firm belief that he does have a contract agreement with some new team.
Stefan Johansson was reacting to the black flag, which brought him in for a pit speed violation. And now, after making his stop-and-go penalty in his pit box, heads back to the race. The leader is still Mansell. He still has plenty of traffic ahead.
I mentioned Al Jr., some new team to him, obviously not a new team to IndyCar racing.
And he's one of the big question marks in where he does go next season. And the rumors have continued to fly left and right about where little Al ends up. Of course, you'll remember at Mid-Ohio, we asked many of these drivers, well, where are you going next year? So I'm going somewhere. I'm just not sure. Well, I don't want to announce it.
Well, I think when the domino effect will definitely start this weekend, now that Michael Andretti has made his announcement and Mansell has made his. You will see in the next 2 or 3 weeks all the available seats suddenly, I think, being filled.
Danny Sullivan rolls in fairly slowly to a stop. You wonder if this car has a similar ailment to that car, his teammate Al Unser Jr.
Remember New Hampshire? that he was a danger to himself and to everybody else on the track out there with him.
This time he's going to keep at it as he goes back into the fight. And look at the traffic in front of Mansell as he comes up and passes Emerson Fittipaldi. Not just yet. More traffic. Mashusta figures into it here. Bet he gets another wave for that one.
Well, you can clearly see Mansell never hangs back. There is no conservative moves here at all being made by Mansell, even though he does have a championship lead to try and protect. This is vintage Mansell in attack mode all the time. That's why so many people enjoy watching this man on the racetrack.
Fittipaldi is the fourth place car, just ahead of Mansell. And Mansell wants to lap him. Mansell wants to discourage him psychologically if he can and say, look, I can put you a lap down. You're not just in fourth, you're a mile behind.
Well, whatever team orders that Penske may have had or may have instigated with Paul Tracy, he needs a lot of help now because the handling of this car is not going to put them in a position to realistically challenge Mansell at the moment from what we can see.
Averaging 156 miles an hour, well above the race record. And look at Mansell just sweep around Fittipaldi, puts him a lap down, and continues his surge forward. Al Unser Jr. out of the race now with Gary Gerald.
Indeed. Junior, there was a lot of heat build up, and you were smelling something. You thought your car was on fire. Was that the case?
Well, I believe so. I haven't really checked into it yet, but the electronics, it smelled like the electronics were burning up. And then my dashboard went out, and then the engine started missing real bad, and then on my in lap, it just quit running totally. So
Everybody's handling characteristics seem to change so abruptly in this race. How about from your seat?
Oh, very much so. My car went off really bad, and it's just from the lack of running. You know, we got rained out yesterday. We have zero practice. You know, we had a half hour this morning, and then a 10-minute break, and then another half-hour session. And nobody's had any practice. The track's changing an awful lot, and the cars, therefore, are changing an awful lot because of no practice. And so, really, the outcome of this race is not yet unfolded to you.
Just before you came in here, they were talking in the booth about different drivers' plans. Anything you can tell us? Have you signed anything? Have you made any deals yet for 94?
No, we're just trying to win the races this year.
All right, we'll see you at Laguna.
Thank you.
Well, he's in one that he isn't going to win. He isn't going to finish. One more to go for Al Unser Jr. and the rest of the IndyCar contingent at Laguna Seca, California in 2 weeks. Nigel Mansell still leads it and is the class of this field.
And Al Unser Jr. was here for the official car test several weeks ago. They were half a second off the pace then. So obviously that was a prelude to the difficulties they have experienced through this weekend here.
So the order now with 95 laps complete and they approach the halfway point is Nigel Mansell. Michael Andretti watching from the Ganassi pits.
Sport Live.
We're just over half distance in this Nazareth 200 miler, and it's still Nigel Mansell who leads. He's looking very, very strong out in front in his attempt to try and take the championship here today. Scott Goodyear, there we can see, just from behind Bobby Rahal's car, is holding on to second place. Ari Luyendyk is in third, and main championship rival for Nigel Mansell, Emerson Fittipaldi, is fourth and a lap down in fourth as well. So Mansell certainly looking very good. Robbie Gordon is in fifth place. Eddie Cheever holding on to sixth place, but all of the cars trying to deal with the tremendous traffic. We've had no yellow periods yet, apart from the start when we had to abort the first start and then restart the race. We've had no full course yellows. Now, this could be worrying the team managers in terms of fuel strategy. They surely must have been expecting to have some yellow flag periods, and it may well mean that they're going to have to run to 3 stops. Therefore, maybe we should keep an eye on Raul Boesel, who made a late stop early on. He was able to maybe lean off the mixture a little bit. Perhaps his fuel figures are looking a little bit better. It's certainly something to consider as we go through the latter stages of this race. We've now completed 104 laps of the 200. So Nigel Mansell then out in front and looking very, very strong indeed, and dealing with the traffic superbly well. We've seen Paul Tracy make mistakes in the past when he's been trying to get past traffic, but Nigel Mansell dealing with it very competently. Well, let's rejoin our American commentary team.
Another driver that wants to put in the best possible showing he can here today. Robbie Gordon continues his battle with Eddie Cheever, not a battle for position, or with Scott Goodyear, not a battle for position, but still an entertaining fight on the course. Jan, you have an update on him?
Yes, he is the only driver that did not say that he had the car go off like everyone else. They said they had a neutral car at the beginning, and the car is still neutral. I'm not sure how you can do that with all the other Lolas getting loose, but right now, Robbie Gordon, very happy.
Robbie Gordon doesn't know what a loose car is.
I wonder.
Because when a car is sideways, he loves it. That's the way he can drive it. His talent level is so high, he can drive a car loose without any trouble at all, even between these concrete walls. But look at Goodyear down the inside.
Scott Goodyear, as he almost loses the back end as they head down to the inside, he continues to hold off Gordon.
Now that was inches, maybe even a quarter of an inch, because Robbie Gordon did not want to back off too much behind Olivia Griard, and he just tried to squeeze down. That's why you saw those tiny little movements of the steering wheel, but however, Goodyear was gone.
Mansell still runs away with it, looking for a championship in the Indy cars. In second place is Scott Goodyear. Let's take another look at this, Derek.
Coming out of turn 2. Here it is, coming out of turn 2. There's Robbie Gordon. He tries to squeeze in, hoping to stay alongside Goodyear. Oh, he actually hits him. Can you believe that? At 175 miles an hour, they actually brush wheels on the run down to the braking zone. Well, 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 you don't often get away with high-speed wheel touching like that.
In tracking the championship, if he could stay right here, Nigel Mansell will make history here at Nazareth today. He needed to be 23 points ahead of Fittipaldi at the checkered flag. Right now, he's 25 points ahead of Fittipaldi and has picked up the bonus point for leading the most laps. 112 miles, 112 laps are complete of the 200-lap scheduled distance. And they are running under green flag with the very real possibility now of going green all the way to the checkered.
And there you saw Nigel Mansell just lap his teammate Mario Andretti once again, and now he chases Arie Luyendyk to put him 2 laps down. A couple of notes: Paul Tracy has surged. He's now in 3rd position. Scott Goodyear is holding off in 2nd position, 7 seconds behind Mansell. But at this point, once again, Mansell has the championship locked up.
He's got that very important point that he picked up for the leading the most laps there, which is obviously going to help his campaign. But Paul Tracy is doing fantastic to drive all the way back up to 3rd. We can see more from him before the afternoon is over. This is Bobby Rahal, who we're riding with right now. Bobby Rahal currently running in 9th position, right behind Stefan Johansson, who's coming back again after having to do the stop-and-go penalty for speeding down pit lane.
One disappointment, of course, at this point would be Mauricio Gugelmin. He's in 22nd position. Another disappointment is Danny Sullivan. Danny's right now in 19th position.
Yeah, Danny's been running slow all day and slow in practice too. His teammate Alasser Jr., as you know, is out. Willie Ribbs is running fairly slowly. Gugelmin is doing good though. He's staying out there, and it's his first time on an oval. He's learning to deal with driving in traffic, driving in an oval, and he's doing very well.
After the black flag, Stefan Johansson of Sweden is up to 8th position. Fittipaldi sits in 5th, and in front of him will be Arie Luyendyk.
And I wonder if Robbie Gordon, when he made that contact with Scott Goodyear, I wonder if maybe that just knocked the steering a little, and he may have some handling problems following that.
But we will return with you shortly. For now, let's join Paul Page and Derek Daly.
Back in Nazareth at the Bosch Spark Plug Grand Prix, Nigel Mansell continues his powerful dominance here and continues to be in a position to take the championship at the end of this day. He is followed by Scott Goodyear and Paul Tracy, then Arie Luyendyk. Emerson Fittipaldi is a full lap behind now. Robbie Gordon really on the fly coming up through this field. You look out the front end of Bobby Rahal's car.
Oh, and that was Nigel Mansell that went by him. There is so little room to spare when you make some of these passes. But Mansell, I mean, he is absolutely grabbing this race by the scruff of the neck and just taking the fight straight to Emerson and trying to beat him into the ground here.
Rahal runs in 9th place right now. We'll give you the bottom half of the top 10. Fittipaldi, Boesel, Johansson, Rahal, and Cheever.
And you see Mansell about to put the move again on Tracy. Doesn't quite squeeze around the outside.
And here's where he has to be so very careful, and look at him doing it. Giving Tracy a lot of respect coming to this. No doubt remembering what happened to him a week ago when he was side by side with Tracy in the first corner. Now slower traffic. Johansson just ahead. Boesel ahead of him. Mansell's around Tracy.
Well, I definitely expect these Penske cars, because of the amount of track time they have spent on this racetrack here, they know every nook and cranny, but I did expect them to be a stronger challenge to Mansell here.
Keeping in mind, as Tracy runs in third place, that he is out of the order. In fact, he may have just started off. He did, and heads into the pits. So Paul Tracy drops out of third place. But remember, he had that early stop, so he is out of the regular pit stop sequence.
Traffic jams that you see here are just phenomenal. There is so much going on. There are 3 or 4 different race cars here at any time. Gary Gerald is in Paul Tracy's pit.
We watch as this crew springs into action, Derek, and this they would hope would be their last pit stop, but I don't think without the help of a yellow they can get to the distance, because as you said, they're out of sequence. Routine stop. He's moving, but moving slowly. Now the clutch engages. We had him at 15.2 on the stop, but then he may have lost another second or two trying to get out quickly.
Well, it would not appear that he could carry this car all the way to the end of the race. You're absolutely right, Gary. We'll keep track of Tracy because he is out of the sequence. Remember, Arie Luyendyk snatched off a victory here, being out of sequence. And just in the last few laps of the race, when all of the leaders were in for a splash of fuel, which is what is necessary here, Arie, being out of the sequence, moved up in the order and suddenly had the lead with just 2 laps to go and took the win.
Fastest car so far on the racetrack is Mansell, 20.8. But you know, Scott Goodyear is only a tick slower, 20.9. But I don't feel that Goodyear is able to do those type of lap times as consistently as Mansell. When Mansell gets into traffic, he is decisive.
Tracy comes out in 6th position behind 5th place Emerson Fittipaldi. You're looking at Teo Fabi. A little further down in the order, a battle for 11th place.
Fabi, another one of the drivers people were talking about. What's he going to do? Well, he is going to do a photo shoot next week for Pennzoil. That would suggest to me that he will be with this team for next season.
Just ahead of him, 10th place Eddie Cheever. And Fabi looking for any opportunity on Cheever to break into the top 10.
Learning curve for Cheever here, learning as he goes. This team came here for the test, but they had Roberto Guerrero in the car. They ran very well, but Cheever cannot always drive this car with Guerrero set up.
Update on Eddie Cheever, Jan.
Paul, he's radioed in and he has said, Eddie Cheever has said the car is getting very loose. The track seems to continue to get more and more loose. He says the car is so bad, he thought a couple times that he had cut a tire. The crew says, Eddie, stay out there, we got to get to the next pit window.
Penske cars come moving around. Teo Fabi moves down to the inside, lets them through. Cheever continues his battle on the circuit, and Mansell continues to lead. We are still under green flag with 128 laps complete.
Eurosport Live.
Welcome back. We've had 135 laps out of the 200 at this Nazareth 1 mile oval. It's the Bosch Spark Plug Grand Prix, and it's Nigel Mansell's race at the moment. He's still out in front and still looking very, very comfortable. Scott Goodyear lies in 2nd place. The Walker Motorsports man putting in a strong performance to try and match up his 3rd place last weekend at Mid-Ohio. Running in 3rd now, it looks as though Emerson Fittipaldi gradually working his way up, and perhaps the changes they made to the car just making it a little bit better after that first pit stop. Gordon, in fact, still in 3rd, Emerson Fittipaldi in 4th, and Fittipaldi just trying to chase down Robbie Gordon for that 3rd position. Then we see Paul Tracy still going well, and the rest of the field following on. So still plenty to play for. Fittipaldi knows that he's got to get closer to Nigel Mansell in terms of getting points in this race to try and take the championship to the final round at Laguna Seca in 2 weeks' time. Mansell will be determined to try and get that points lead and to save and hold the championship before they go to California. There is Arie Luyendyk back into the pits and making another stop. Now that would have been an unscheduled stop, so Luyendyk making an extra stop at that stage will drop him down the order once again, so it's all changed still in the top 6, but it's Nigel Mansell who leads comfortably at the moment, dealing with the traffic very well. There's Scott Goodyear, 2nd place man into the pits. Let's rejoin our American team to find out what's happening.
It turns out, believe it or not, he has a little bit of push. They went too far. You just saw right now, they put a half a turn of front wing in
139th lap. Look at Eddie Cheever as he almost gets around him just before the blend line, but then tucks in behind him.
Notice the changes they're making. Half a turn is what Jan told us they made to Scott Goodyear's car. Now, you or I, to look at the car, could not measure half a turn, but that is how sensitive these racing cars are. At speeds approaching 180 miles an hour, that half a turn makes a very big difference out in the corners.
Nigel Mansell still in the key position. Now what does he do? He stays right here. He's in the right position to get ahead of Fittipaldi, take the championship here today. He has one more stop to go. The crew is there. You see them waiting for Mansell to make it into the pits. Now we can't afford any errors. But he can do nothing more than he's already done. He runs in the lead of the race. Everything now is up to Fittipaldi.
He needs consistency. Be careful as we watch Robbie Gordon make his last pit stop. But most of all, Nigel Mansell now needs mechanical reliability.
He's had it most of the season. Here's the man who can challenge him. He needs to close 1 point in.
Did you see what happened there? The wheel nut actually rolled down. That was the spare one. The front man threw it back to him. However, the right rear man already took his spare off his belt and stuck Fittipaldi's right rear wheel on.
Well, they do work together well. Mansell out in front. Scott Goodyear in second after the stops. Gordon is third. Fittipaldi is still fourth. Now everything in the championship is in the hands of Fittipaldi, assuming that Mansell continues running in the lead and his car stays reliable.
Teamwork plays such an important role here because things happen so fast on the racetrack. You have to be so calm and collected when you bring your car into your crew members, but then they have to do everything just perfectly right.
Go back and take a look at Emerson Fittipaldi's pit stop.
Talk about teamwork. Watch the right rear tire. And watch the wheel in. Look, it rolls down. The left front man sees it, throws it back, and continues on his way. Being aware and working as a team is what makes Roger Penske's outfit so successful.
It's Rick Reineman working on the right front of that car, very aware of what's going on around him. Now, in that round of stops, Paul Tracy was able to get around Fittipaldi, and Tracy now runs in for it. Look at Mansell as he battles with Gordon. He comes off, peels onto the pit road. This will be his final stop of the day. We'll come back to that Tracy Fittipaldi story in just a moment. As Gary Gerald, here comes Nigel Mansell. Will he end this day a champion?
Tommy Wirtz waving him into position. Boy, he glides in and he hits it beautifully. He's learned this whole business of IndyCar pit stops so well. The biggest problem on the ovals for Mansell this year, he says it's claustrophobic. He gets dizzy. He had no complaints along those lines today, and they've made no changes to the car again. He's out of here in 14 seconds. That $1 million is looming bigger all the time.
Talk about claustrophobic. Maurizio Gugelmin, his quote on Nazareth was, "It's just like playing a video game. You're in a little box going round and round with very small movements of the steering wheel, just like being in a video game."
Perfect stop by the Newman Haas crew. Mansell into the pits in first, out of the pits in first. Now he must maintain position. So the question going back to Fittipaldi and Tracy is, will now team orders come into effect? Will Roger Penske order Paul Tracy to pull up short, let Fittipaldi pass, and try to get him into a better position? Just as you suggested at the start of the show, we will keep track on that situation, and we will keep track of this ongoing battle for the championship. For the moment, it looks very much like Nigel Mansell.
Indeed, team orders become a factor, Guy Hopp, when you consider that Paul Tracy is 2 laps down from Nigel Mansell. That's over 40 seconds. That's going to be very, very hard to make up in the 50 laps left. And then the thought becomes, will he let Fittipaldi go and take that position?
Well, don't forget he's also out of sync, so that'll give Emmo a chance to get by him when he comes in for that splash and dash around about lap 185, maybe 190 or so, somewhere around there. What's amazing is Nigel Mansell's made his pit stop. He's refueled, so it's totally changed the handling of the car. He's now got a full fuel load. He's on cold tires. He goes zooming back out and just whips off another quick lap right away. I mean, his car is obviously absolutely perfect for him today, and obviously having no handling problems whatsoever.
Indeed, and Robbie Gordon, who's in third position, is actually being chased by Emerson Fittipaldi. Fittipaldi, right before that pit stop he just made, was actually closing in on Gordon. So it's a very interesting situation, and that would stave off the championship for one more race if Fittipaldi can hold off Robbie Gordon and take that third position. That's critical at this point.
Out of the race so far, Buddy Lazier had a suspension problem. Alain Jr. had an engine fire, which we heard from Gary Gerald on that one. Still running, but some way back. And Mark Greco, Ross Bentley, Mauricio Guzman, Hiro Matsushita, Willie T. Ribbs, and Danny Sullivan. Brian Till having a reasonably good day, and Robbie Buell is still running out there.
A couple of quick notes. David Kudrave is surprising everybody with a 15th position at this point. He's part of the Euromotors team that's run by Antonio Ferrari. And also, Salin Candela of Indy Regency just told us that next year they will be running 2 cars. They will be running a Chevy D, which would be, I guess, the Ilmore D, with a Lola chassis, and there will be a second driver. No word on that yet.
And their man, Olivier Griard, right now, currently running 14th on his oval attempt. Good day for him.
And good day for all the Cheviers. Now, we'll return with you shortly. For now, let's join Paul Page and Derek Daly.
Out the nose of Bobby Rahall's car as he moved around Mario Andretti. We'll take a look at the top 12 in this race with 155 miles of the 200-mile scheduled distance complete on this 1-mile tri-oval at Nazareth, Pennsylvania. Paul Tracy and Emerson Fittipaldi the key here. Emerson needs to move up a position. Well, they wave Tracy and tell him to let Fittipaldi pass. Mark Smith looking very strong in 12th place. There's a young rookie to keep an eye out for this year. He's been very strong every race he's run.
Very strong. I believe this is his first oval track race. He didn't quite make the qualifying at Indianapolis, didn't make the race, but I believe this is his first oval track race. Now Rahal is in the pit lane, and he follows in Gugelmin.
Johansson.
No, it's Johansson.
As Johansson pulls off to the first pit, Rahal has to come down well past the halfway point before he makes his stop. Both these cars, of course, out of sequence because of stops early on in the run here. Boy, look at the smoke pour off the brakes on that. Rahal, they clean out the side pods. No other changes, though.
If the brakes are that warm, it means you're using them. If you're using them, it means your car is not handling well.
Jan skidded into that pit at the end. Jan, how'd the stop look?
Paul, the stop looked really well. We had a chance just before the stop to check in with team owner Carl Hogan. He said the changes we made on the first stop worked really well. We have a balanced car. We know we can move up from here. They were one of the last in the pit window. It's only Leyendijk we're waiting for now.
So we watch Rahal. We know the situation there. Let's try and take a look at Danny Sullivan, who runs well down in this order in 20th place. May stay with this team next year, has another year on his contract. Now, let's consider while we watch Danny this championship. Mansell leads the race. He has the point spread that he needs. He's 25 points ahead of Fittipaldi at this moment. What he needs to do is have Paul Tracy let him pass, or just simply race past Tracy and race past Robbie Gordon, because Emerson needs to finish third to stay in the hunt for the championship.
Well, I don't think, well, I'd be shocked if he has to race past Tracy as this race unfolds, because I'm sure Tracy will be under order to move over and let him by. I tell you what, though, Robbie Gordon won't be easy.
Well, even absent that, Paul Tracy should have to make one other stop before the end of this race. So the guess would be they'll keep Tracy out until he has to make that stop and continue to run in position. There's Fittipaldi behind Bosell, moving through traffic. Behind Bosell in position on the course, not in the race itself.
We know this goes internationally. We also know that at the Penske Race Shop in Poole in England, they have a big screen TV where they bring the employees in to watch their work out on the racetrack. Today, they're not having the type of day that they would really like to see for all their efforts in England. 75 people works in Roger Penske's race shop in Poole in England.
It must be a nice sensation to sit across an ocean and watch a car that you put together and perform here in Nazareth, Pennsylvania, though. I bet they wish it would perform just a little bit better right now.
Just a little bit is all it needs sometimes, because just a little bit extra is what Mansell has over everybody. Well, over most people, he has a lot more over a lot of people.
Well, we continue to run green flag, and because we're running under green flag conditions and have right from the first lap, we are running at a record pace of 176.6 miles an hour. The race record is 148 miles an hour. That was Gets the average speed there at 160 laps, and Nigel continues to pick up the pace. 3 lead changes. The single caution was the waved off start, but of course the first lap counted as a lap under caution. So Nigel Mansell may in fact be on his way to making history with an IndyCar championship back-to-back with his Formula One title. He still runs in the lead, well ahead of Scott Goodyear, who is in second place. Robbie Gordon, with another great performance, sits in third place. And then Paul Tracy and Emerson Fittipaldi, the Penske cars. You see Emo just ahead there as he runs ahead of Bobby Rahal. Emo has clear track to run, but look at Rahal come up to try and get a lap back from Fittipaldi, and he does so. So Fittipaldi is struggling.
Well, Scott Goodyear's already 1 lap behind Nigel Mansell. Nigel Mansell just continues to tear up this field. Nary a problem. And at this point, with the crowds and the number of cars on the track thinning out, it could be actually even easier for him to continue through this race.
It's looking very solid right now as far as Nigel is concerned in the victory. Only a mechanical problem, or maybe a yellow flag incident. I'm amazed we haven't had any yellows. Last year we had 4 yellows for 56 laps. We had the 1 for the first lap here, but I mean no incidents out there, which is quite surprising here at Nazareth.
I'm wondering if that is perhaps a function of the fact that they had not practiced here and everybody's being just a touch conservative here.
There is one correction we need to make. Mark Smith has in fact, who is currently running in 12, has in fact run an oval before. He finished 9th this year at Phoenix.
As you see the field, there's Nigel Mansell pursuing Marco Greco, who's actually at the very bottom of this field. He's in 24th position. The order of business so far: Mansell up top, Goodyear a lap down, as is Robbie Gordon's 2 laps down. Paul Tracy and Fittipaldi 3 laps down. Linddyke 4 laps down. 5 laps down we find Bobby Rahal and Stefan Johansson. And then you have Raul Boesel and Eddie Cheever 7 laps behind. Theo Fabi is in 11th position, 9 laps down. Then Mark Smith and Mario Andretti finish up the 12th and 13th position.
Stefan Johansson, of course, driving the other Penske that the guys in Poole back in Dorset will be rooting for. And here we see
Nigel Mansell leads still, and look at this, squeezing through on the inside of Scott Brayton and just about getting away with it. Mansell leading with under 30 laps to go now, just about 25 laps to go in this Nazareth race, and Mansell could be heading to win the 1993 IndyCar World Series. Emerson Fittipaldi there now down to 5th position, as you can see. Goodyear in 2nd, Robbie Gordon in 3rd, Paul Tracy. We would expect him to drop back a little bit, perhaps to let Fittipaldi come up to 4th position, but Fittipaldi certainly is not going so well. And the Penske team on Roger Penske's own circuit certainly seem to be struggling a little bit to get the pace of these cars just right. Newman Haas, on the other hand, have done a superb job with Mansell's car, and Nigel Mansell is driving absolutely above himself. He's getting himself through the traffic very, very cleanly indeed, and he's dominating this race. He's put a lap now on Scott Goodyear in 2nd place, so he really is looking very strong, and the Penskes are struggling, and unless Emerson Fittipaldi can come up with something in these remaining 20 or so laps, then Mansell could well be on his way to the championship. There goes Mansell lapping Linddyke again. Let's rejoin our American commentary team.
And he has everybody in a firm headlock at the moment, trying to get a submission. Mansell is being brutal here on his competitors. He is superb and in total control.
Up inside Johansson, but still look at how careful he's been playing it. None of that solid attack into the field now. Now he senses that victory just down the road, and more important, that championship. In 3rd place, it continues to be Robbie Gordon, Jan Beekes. Jan?
Paul, you talk about being delicate in traffic. Robbie Gordon has called in and has had a couple of big moments. He said he almost got put in the wall by Danny Sullivan, and then just a couple moments ago, he just on his own got squirrely and almost tagged the wall. He's trying very hard, knows that he's running in 3rd place.
His car owner, A.J. Foyt, had a little surgery this past week, is watching at home. Wonder what he's doing with the TV set. I'll bet he's yelling and screaming and cheering Robbie on.
Well, I'll tell you what, his blood pressure is up, because that is now 3 incidents that Robbie Gordon has had. 2 we didn't see, but 1 we clearly saw earlier when he hit Scott
number 5 still on the charge. 180 laps complete. 20 miles to a potential championship, a historic championship. Now he's taken on some care. Very careful with Johansson just ahead. He has a strong lead over Scott Goodyear, and he recognizes the key is not the race here, though he would certainly like to win it. The key is Fittipaldi, and Fittipaldi is not in position to continue to challenge for the championship.
And at Mid-Ohio, he almost dropped the ball with the incident with Paul Tracy at the first turn. In fact, he had very strong and severe words against Tracy, blaming him for that incident on that first corner. However, all is forgotten this weekend, and now we watch a display of pure aggression and raw speed and talent.
Paul Tracy, will he have to make another pit stop? I assume he would. Gary Gerald, will he?
That's what I thought. Just checked with 2 members of the crew, and they say no, that they've got the mixture leaned down to the point where they can make it to the checkered flag without making that stop. So what does that do to Emerson Fittipaldi's title chances?
Well, I presume, Gary, that what that means is that they will want Tracy to give way to Fittipaldi and at least let him into 4th, so he'll be in a key position if something happens to Gordon. What do you think?
Well, I would think that certainly would make an awful lot of sense. Maybe we can get a confirmation here.
What about Fittipaldi? Jan Beekes, can you give us more?
Well, they know that Paul Tracy is going to come in, so in other words, if you check with the other Penske team, they're keeping an eye. So I guess Paul Tracy will be coming in. They know that that will give him 4th position. They also know that's not enough for Emerson. They say,
but
we cannot catch him, Paul, is what they say. Without a yellow, we can't go any further. They're already on full rich.
And what Gary's saying is that Tracy doesn't have to come in, so he will have to give way.
Well, according to what, I mean, they're right next to each other. I can see Gary from here. He is checking with Tracy's team. They say, no, we don't have to stop. You check with Emerson's. They say, yes, Tracy is going to stop. So it's anybody's guess.
So the Penske team, they're still in competition with one another. Mansell in competition with no one. He continues to lead. He still has his hand very firmly on the championship, and in 14 miles, he just could be the IndyCar champion. Scott Goodyear is the only one that can contest him for the win of the race.
Nigel Mansell just 5 minutes away from history. Paul Tracy ahead of his teammate Fittipaldi, but the real spoiler here is not Tracy. It would be Robbie Gordon, who's in 3rd position and seemingly has total grasp over that position. Fittipaldi desperate to get to 3rd.
Robbie Gordon, as you heard, had some problems. He had some little squirrely moments. And looking at the stats, actually, Robbie Gordon's done some great racing this year. Been running up very high in the field and has often gone out to accidents towards the end of a race. Obviously, we don't wish that upon him at all, but Emerson, of course, has seen that happen. And now Paul Tracy is right up behind Robbie Gordon and battling with him for that position.
Now, Nigel Mansell has 191 points. If Fittipaldi takes that 3rd position, he would end up with 170, which means that if that's the case, and that's a highly hypothetical thing at this point, if Mansell gets the pole at that last race in Laguna Seca, he automatically wins the championship. So things are looking very, very good for Nigel Mansell at this point.
Well, 9 more laps and he's got this one in the bag because he's got a 3-lap lead over Emerson Fittipaldi. So really 197 laps is all Nigel Mansell needs. Just 9 laps away from doing that. 20 seconds a lap. Looking like he's going to be the first man to repeat or go from one series to the other and win the championship back to back.
And he just signed for 2 more years with the Newman Haas team, so everybody's very, very happy in that pit area. Now let's go to our colleague Paul Page and Derek Daly.
This is the man that could make the difference in the championship. Number 4, Emerson Fittipaldi. He rides in 5th place right now. His teammate Paul Tracy is just ahead of him. It is what he does. Now they have flipped position. Now they flipped.
On the racetrack, yes, you're right. He's actually behind him on the racetrack. But we now know that even if Tracy helps Emerson, that's not good enough. He needs a lot of help from a Mansell or a Goodyear or a Gordon. He needs either of those 3 cars to have some sort of problem or difficulty.
The point I was about to make, though, is that Mansell is doing everything that he can. Mansell's leading the race, led the most laps. He can do no more. Right now, it is Fittipaldi's championship to lose, and with now just 8 laps to go, 8 miles, Fittipaldi does not appear to have any chance whatsoever.
And Emerson went into this race with almost a tag team because his Penske teammate Paul Tracy was going to be able to support him, but the cars were not good enough. He needs a lot more than Paul Tracy's help now if he is even to have a breath of fresh fresh air to try and grasp a hold of this championship.
The race is Mansell, followed by Goodyear. They're the only two on the same lap. Then Gordon, then Tracy, then Fittipaldi. Rahal is 6th. 7th is Johansson, followed by Lyondike, Bozell, and Cheever. Teo Fabi runs in 11th place, followed by Mark Smith, Mario Andretti, David Kudrave, and Scott Brayton in 15th. Go back to the front of the field, take a look at Nigel Mansell. As now, he certainly can calculate that he is very, very close. In fact, just a few minutes away from grasping his dream of this year, an IndyCar championship. And what a remarkable accomplishment it is, as it has been throughout the year. He comes to the first race at Australia, sits on the pole, takes the win. Newman Haas Racing. There's Carl. Pretty calm, only one end of the cigar bitten.
Doesn't take Mansell very long to learn these racetracks. Even when he came here for a test session, in less than a day, he was virtually down to the track record. High-speed corners and entering high-speed corners, driving down to the apex, is always where Mansell has been extremely fast. That's the benefit we see him have here now, as well as a very good car.
He adapts so quickly on these circuits, especially on the ovals. He seems to love the high speed and the traffic. Now 197 laps complete.
It all unfolds now for Mansell. You just got to be very, very careful, but there may be some position changes going on right behind Mansell.
You take a look just back behind Mansell. Paul Tracy and Robbie Gordon are there as they continue to battle their position out. There's Mansell as he moves around. He should see a white flag next time around. A white flag not only on this race, but now less than a mile to the IndyCar Championship. Paul Tracy got around Gordon, and Tracy now sits in third, the position that Fittipaldi wishes he had.
There's the traffic jam there that includes Tracy, but Emerson is the key. He cannot get close enough to Gordon to make a difference to have Tracy help him.
The final lap now being run at Nazareth, and there is the checkered flag for Nigel Mansell. The Kmart Haviland Lola takes the win, and in doing so, takes the IndyCar Championship. A piece of history in the making here. Paul Tracy pulls alongside, gives a wave of congratulations to Mansell. Paul Newman accepting the congratulations from his team members. Reaches up to say thank you to Carl Haas for yet another great and successful championship season, this time with their new rookie. He can now, without any question, take any rookie stripes that may be around anywhere off, because he goes from rookie to champion. Nigel Mansell. And already they've got the hats out, Gary.
Here's Paul Newman down here exchanging greetings with Carl Haas. Paul, can we get a quick word as we congratulate you and this team on an IndyCar championship?
It's an extraordinary year. My hat's off to him.
Can you believe how this guy adapted to the ovals?
Really extraordinary. Awesome.
And I guess the great thing is you've got him back for a couple more seasons.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Well, we're going to have some awful good racing next year.
We look forward to it. Congratulations. All right.
Nigel Mansell rolls into the winner's circle, taking the race in the Bosch Spark Plug Grand Prix and taking the championship as they wave the Union Jack here in Nazareth.
Eurosport Live.
You're looking at the 1993 PPG IndyCar World Series champion. It's Nigel Mansell, who's just won the Nazareth race and has therefore won the championship. Sorry that we're not getting the sound on the interview here, but Mansell obviously absolutely delighted to have won this. He's thanking the team for the support that they've given him, and his family as well for the support that they've given him. There is Carl Haas of Newman Haas Racing, the man who brought Nigel Mansell over to the IndyCar Series, who has recently signed the deal that will see Nigel Mansell race in the next 2 years in the IndyCar Series as well. And Mansell absolutely delighted. That team, has to be said, have done a superb job all year long. Jim McGee, the team manager as well, absolutely superb job in setting the car up and in giving Mansell the confidence to really charge and to run flat out.
You saw
Mansell certainly saying that he enjoyed the oval track racing today, finding that the oval track racing is very demanding, trying to find his way through traffic. He was talking there about being 3 abreast at times, sometimes even more than that, trying to get it past the slower cars, and saying that he really enjoys that type of racing, and he wished that he'd got into it before. Once again, just thanking the Newman Haas team and the sponsors, Texaco, Aveline, Kmart, and everybody else involved in running that outfit, with Mario Andretti alongside him. And he really is absolutely delighted with the performance of the whole team. They certainly have done him well. Well, he's the 3rd man to have won the Formula One World Championship and to go on to win the IndyCar World Series. Mario Andretti and Emerson Fittipaldi having done it before him, but he's the first man to do it in successive years. And of course, Mansell still the reigning world champion at the moment. That Formula One Championship for this year not yet decided, as Paul Newman comes up to give him his congratulations as well. So Mansell wins from Scott Goodyear in 2nd place. Paul Tracy ended up in 3rd. Robbie Gordon in 4th place. Then Emerson Fittipaldi and Bobby Rahal. Stefan Johansson getting 7th in the end. Arie Luyendyk 8th. And the final points positions there. Bazal not going as well as we thought he would do at the early part of the race, where he certainly was going very quickly indeed. But certainly now, Bazal just dropping back a little bit in the latter stages. There we are, just looking through the rest of the standings. Andretti disappointing to finish in 13th place, his hometown. Good result for Dave Coudrave. Scott Brayton, Brian Till, Olivier Grillard perhaps a little bit disappointing, the Frenchman, ex-Formula One driver, not really getting it together this afternoon. Amazing how little damage we had throughout the course of the race. No yellow flag periods throughout the course of the race, and the teams must have been running very carefully, in fact, to manage to get through on just the 2 pit stops. They all managed it, but they must have been running the engines a little bit lean towards the end. Interesting to see how they managed that. That's Scott Goodyear, the 33-year-old Canadian, who managed to finish in 2nd place, and that's in fact his best result of the year after a disappointing season. There is Fittipaldi, the man beaten this time around, the last foreign-born driver to win the IndyCar Championship, and he has had to give 2nd best to Nigel Mansell on this occasion. It really has been a great battle between these two, the 2 former Formula One world champions. Fittipaldi winning in 1972 and 1974, a different generation of Formula One to that of Nigel Mansell, of course, but only 6 years is elder. Fittipaldi, 46 years old now. And, well, he won the championship in 1989. He certainly went for it this year. He won at Indianapolis, which was a key event. Fittipaldi on the phone there now, and we wonder who he's talking to, perhaps to the family, but passing on the message, perhaps, that the championship is over. Nigel Mansell has taken the victory, and Fittipaldi's championship hopes over for this season. Well, maybe next season, maybe the 1994 season will be Emerson's turn again. An interesting announcement made in that Chevrolet are withdrawing their support of the IndyCar engine program with Ilmor Engineering, and surely that will affect the Penske team, because they are one of the main users of the Chevrolet engine in their Penskes. Roger Penske still involved with Ilmor. He has an input into that as well, so maybe we'll still see Penske running the Ilmor engine next year, but not under the Chevrolet name. That certainly is another interesting aspect for next season, the 94 season, along with Michael Andretti coming in the Chip Ganassi Reynard and Nigel Mansell, who will try and defend his new title. The man will try and beat off Michael Andretti, and it will be a superb battle between those two. Chip Ganassi actually reporting in the press conference that they held on the announcement of Michael Andretti coming back into IndyCar racing, that he saw it as the best American driver coming back in to the IndyCar series. He said, we're presented with quite an opportunity here. The best American driver is now back in our series, and he's in our team. And so Ganassi certainly confident that they can do well and try and take the crown away from Nigel Mansell. Andretti won the championship, Michael Andretti that is, in 1991. 1994 could be a great battle between Andretti, back out of Formula One, and Nigel Mansell. So these were the final 4 laps that took Nigel Mansell to the championship. He becomes the first British driver to win the IndyCar World Series. It's been a superb year for him. It started off with victory at Surfers Paradise in Australia. He went on to have that crash at Phoenix. The first taste of 1 mile oval racing was at Phoenix, and that of course ended in agony when he crashed into the wall in qualifying and had to miss out that event. But ever since then, Mansell has been the man to beat on the 1 mile oval tracks. He's won every single 1 mile oval since then, winning Milwaukee the weekend after the Indianapolis 500. He won at New Hampshire, and now winning at Nazareth, he takes the 93 series title. And who would have said at the beginning of the year that Nigel Mansell would have won 3 out of 4 1 mile oval track races? An unbelievable record for a man who'd never driven on an oval circuit before this season, and everyone expected him to do well on the road courses, but Mansell really coming to the fore on the 1 mile ovals. And here he was on his final lap. The white flag had shown. Mansell managing to just nip past his teammate Mario Andretti once again to put him another lap down, and Andretti struggling. But it was Mansell's race, Mansell's afternoon, and it's Nigel Mansell who came round to take the checkered flag and the victory at Nazareth, and with it the series title. An absolutely superb performance, and Nigel Mansell and his crew absolutely delighted with the event. Paul Tracy there just being interviewed. He finished in 3rd place in the end, so slightly disappointing with the performance of the Penske this time.
That was a good day.
Really
for us.
wasn't set up quite as well as they might have hoped.
Then we ran into a loose condition, and
a little bit in the early stages.
From there, we couldn't get rid of it. We just kind of hung on to the car all day.
But Tracy making a few changes in the pits,
a
few wing changes, and they managed to get the balance back again.
Well, I think everybody was loose.
Paul Tracy, having done, he reckoned in the press conference around about 6,000 laps of this Nazareth Oval in the course of testing and racing over the past couple of years, as it is Roger Penske's own circuit. They certainly have done an awful lot of testing, and it is a bit surprising that they weren't able to be more on the pace. And Paul Tracy just being questioned about that and just saying that the conditions on the day, you always have to set the car up for the day itself, and Penske just didn't quite get the sums correct, whereas obviously the Newman-Haas team did, and that is all to their credit, to get the setup completely right. And well, that gave Nigel Mansell the win. Good result for Scott Goodyear, as we mentioned. He has had a tough time this season so far, and that will move him up a little bit further in the championship. It's his best result of the year, coming after that 3rd place at Mid-Ohio last time out. So great performance for him. That 3rd place for Tracy will pull him ahead of Raul Boesel for 3rd in the championship again. So those two will be battling out for 3rd place in the series when we go to the final round of the championship in 2 weeks' time at Laguna Seca. Everyone will be that little bit more relaxed for the final round on the superb road circuit. It's a purpose-built track at Laguna Seca in California, and one of the most demanding and tricky circuits that the IndyCar circus visits throughout the year, and a great place to have the finale. Last year the championship went down to the wire at that race, and Michael Andretti actually won the race, but Bobby Rahal finished well up enough to take the series. Well, this time round Mansell will go there as the reigning IndyCar champion. It'll be his first race once again on a strange circuit, but he'll be in good relaxed mode, and perhaps he'll be able to take a win on a road circuit, which is something that he hasn't managed to do this year, after the only street course or road course victory that he's had was at Surfers Paradise, first time out this year. But it has been a great run of results. He was 3rd at Long Beach, he was 3rd at Indianapolis, and that of course surprised many people who thought that Mansell would struggle at Indianapolis, the great event, the Indy 500. But a superb 3rd place after brushing the wall with just a few laps remaining. He actually led the race with 16 laps to go, and that really signified, I think, to all the other IndyCar drivers that Mansell was going to have to be watched on the oval circuits. He then went on to win at Milwaukee, to take the win 30 years on from Jim Clark winning there at Milwaukee. Detroit, the next race, was a bit of a disaster. He ran 8th after getting a puncture. Then he ended up crashing out of the race. That was one of the low points. Another one of the low points was the other Canadian race, funnily enough, at Toronto, where he again failed to finish after qualifying down in 9th place, and they had a turbo failure on that occasion. Well, we're looking at here at Robbie Gordon, the Californian man who raced off-road racing for several years before coming into circuit racing. He finished 4th, and he's ending the season with some excellent results. 2nd at Mid-Ohio, 4th here at Nazareth, and a man who's much more experienced on normal race circuits than
without a yellow flag. There's no chance to get a breather. You're in that traffic all the time. This is a tremendous
oval track, so a great result for him.
It wasn't too bad though. You know, it was 200 laps. I wasn't tired at the end. Too bad it wasn't 400. Maybe we could go farther and get higher up on the podium.
Now, any word from how the boss man, AJ Foyt's doing? Because we know he wasn't here today. He had surgery this past week.
Well, I hope he's doing okay, and I wish him well. And I also wish a friend of mine, Kendall family, a lot of luck. And you know, they're great buddies of mine. His father passed away not too long ago, and I just
moving
want to say,
on,
we loved you.
And passing on messages to AJ Foyt, his team owner,
how much do you think
to get better soon, and Gordon, a lot of talk about Gordon for next year as well.
I think we're really
for
consistent
where he's going to end up.
We just moved into 8th in points, and I'm ecstatic. You know, we have one more race left this year, and we'll just try to get in the top 10 for points.
And how about the plans for 1994? Any more you can share with us?
Just want to win races.
Wherever it may be. Paul?
So Gordon delighted with his performance this time around, and he certainly has come on strong again at the end of the year. He started off the season well with a great run at Surfers Paradise, but things went a little bit worse from that point, and it's good for him to finish off the season on a high note, and he certainly is a man in demand for next year. There again, just a quick run through the results. Stefan Johansson not getting quite as good a result as he may have hoped for this time, but I'm sure he's looking forward to that final race at Laguna Seca, a circuit that he raced on last year, and maybe he can get a good top 6 result. He certainly has been racing well this season and has a good chance of getting a good result. But today was Nigel Mansell's day and Nigel Mansell's championship. He came to IndyCar racing after leaving Formula One in a rather bad atmosphere. He's come into IndyCar racing and he settled in superbly well. The American public have taken to him, the other drivers have taken to him, and everyone says how relaxed he is in IndyCar racing, how friendly, how approachable he is, and he really does seem to be in his element and happy to be in the American Racing Series. The championship is his with 191 points. Emerson Fittipaldi second now on 166 with no chance of beating Mansell. Paul Tracy third on 136, bringing him up ahead of Raul Boesel now in 4th, and Bobby Rahal in 5th. So our next IndyCar race, the final race of the season, in 2 weeks' time here on Eurosport. Do make sure that you join us for what should be a great finale to the season. With Mansell in a good relaxed mood, will he be able to dominate and take yet another win? It would be his 6th win of the season, and that would be a great way to finish it all off. Well, do join us here on Eurosport for that Laguna Seca race. We're certainly looking forward to it, and we shall see whether Fittipaldi or Tracy can rise to the challenge in that one more event to go. There's Scott Goodyear on the left, Paul Tracy on the right in 3rd place, and Mansell, the man of the moment and the man that everybody will want to talk to after this. Sponsorship requirements with all the various different hats.
Yes, we're thinking about it.
And Mansell has certainly fitted in well to the American way of doing things. Very much more accessible in IndyCar racing. The fans able to get right into the enclosures where the drivers are getting ready for going out for qualifying or racing. Much more easy to see the drivers than in Formula One racing, and Mansell fitting in well with that. He's always been one to get on with his fans and to enjoy that side of the relationship between a driver and the fans, and perhaps that's part of the reason that he has done so well in the IndyCar series this year. So Mansell just having those publicity shots taken, and these pictures will be filling up the front pages of the press from around the world. The IndyCar series this year really has taken off around the world and has come from being a domestic American championship into a championship that is considered and watched all around the world. And here on Eurosport. You've had the chance this year to watch the IndyCar racing live, and we hope that you've enjoyed the IndyCar racing as much as we have. It's been a tremendous championship this year. A tremendous battle all the way through, and some tremendous racing both on the road circuits, the street circuits, and on the oval tracks, where Mansell has become a dominant force. Well, Nigel Mansell then, the champion, the winner from Nazareth, and the man who sets the history books alight with his achievements. The first British winner, the first man to do the World Formula One Championship one year, the IndyCar Championship the following year. A great victory for Mansell. From Ben Edwards and everyone here on Eurosport, it's goodbye for now.
People who know use Valvoline.